Imagine waking up one morning with everything you've worked for still standing: your home, your business, your family, your dreams. Then by the next sunrise, it's all gone. Not because of a natural disaster, not because of a foreign invasion, but because your own neighbors turned against you. This isn't the plot of a Hollywood movie. It's one of the darkest chapters in American history. In the early 1900s, there was a neighborhood in Tulsa, Oklahoma, so prosperous that people across the country called it Black Wall Street. It was home to successful entrepreneurs, doctors, lawyers, teachers, newspapers, hotels, theaters, and hundreds of thriving Black-owned businesses. At a time when segregation and discrimination were widespread across the United States, this community became a powerful symbol of determination, economic success, and hope. But on May 31st and June 1st, 1921, everything changed. Within less than 24 hours, a white mob destroyed much of the Greenwood district. Homes and businesses were burned, thousands of residents were left homeless, and many people were killed. Historians generally estimate that as many as 300 people may have died, although the exact number remains uncertain because many deaths were never officially documented. For decades, this tragedy was largely omitted from school textbooks and public discussion. Many survivors carried their memories in silence, while official records were incomplete or lost. How could one of America's most successful Black communities be destroyed so quickly? Why was this story overlooked for so many years? And what can it teach us about justice, memory, and the importance of confronting difficult chapters of history? Today, we're uncovering the story of the Tulsa Race Massacre, how a thriving community was built, how violence erupted, and why its legacy still shapes conversations in America more than a century later. To understand why the events of 1921 were so devastating, we first need to understand what was lost. At the turn of the 20th century, Tulsa, Oklahoma, was one of the fastest-growing cities in America. The discovery of oil transformed the region into a booming economic center, attracting thousands of people looking for opportunity. Among those who arrived were African-American families seeking a better future. Although Oklahoma enforced segregation under the Jim Crow system, Black entrepreneurs and professionals found ways to build thriving businesses within their own community. Just north of downtown Tulsa was the Greenwood district. What began as a small neighborhood soon grew into one of the most successful Black communities in the United States. Greenwood wasn't simply a place where people lived. It was a place where they built wealth, supported one another, and invested in future generations. The streets were lined with Black-owned businesses. There were grocery stores, restaurants, pharmacies, barbershops, beauty salons, clothing stores, hotels, movie theaters, newspapers, medical offices, and law firms. Residents could earn a living, receive medical care, shop, and enjoy entertainment without leaving their own neighborhood. One of the most influential figures was businessman O.W. Gurley, who purchased land and encouraged Black families and entrepreneurs to settle there. His vision helped lay the foundation for Greenwood's remarkable growth. Other business leaders, including J.B. Stratford, invested in hotels, real estate, and other enterprises, creating jobs and strengthening the local economy. Money circulated within the community. When residents earned a paycheck, they often spent it at local Black-owned businesses, allowing those businesses to hire more workers and expand. This created a powerful cycle of economic growth despite the barriers imposed by segregation. Education was also a priority. Schools, churches, civic organizations, and community groups worked together to create opportunities for children and families. Many residents believed that financial independence, education, and cooperation were the keys to a better future. Because of its extraordinary level of prosperity, educator Booker T. Washington is widely credited with inspiring the nickname Black Wall Street, a comparison to New York City's financial district that reflected Greenwood's economic success. But not everyone celebrated Greenwood's achievements. While many admired what the community had built, others viewed its success with resentment. Tulsa remained a deeply segregated city, and racial tensions were already present beneath the surface. As Greenwood continued to grow richer and more influential, those tensions became increasingly dangerous. No one knew that a single encounter inside a downtown office building would soon ignite one of the deadliest episodes of racial violence in American history. By the spring of 1921, Greenwood had become a symbol of Black success and resilience. But beneath Tulsa's growing prosperity, racial tensions remained high. On the morning of May 30th, 1921, a 19-year-old black shoeshiner named Dick Rowland entered the Drexel building in downtown Tulsa. Like many black workers in the area, he used a restroom located on the building's upper floor because public facilities were segregated. To reach it, he stepped into an elevator operated by Sarah Page, a 17-year-old white elevator attendant. What happened next has been debated for more than a century. No one knows exactly what occurred inside that elevator. Historians have proposed several possibilities. Rowland may have accidentally stepped on Sarah Page's foot as the elevator moved. Others believe he may have stumbled and grabbed her arm to keep his balance. What is known is that Sarah Page screamed, and someone nearby reported hearing the commotion. A store clerk saw Rowland quickly leave the building and called the police. The next day, Dick Rowland was arrested. Importantly, Sarah Page did not publicly accuse Rowland of rape, and there is no reliable historical evidence that such an assault took place. In fact, prosecutors later chose not to pursue the case, and the charges were eventually dropped. But before the legal process could run its course, rumors spread rapidly across Tulsa. At a time when racial prejudice was deeply rooted, gossip often traveled faster than facts. On the afternoon of May 31st, a local newspaper published an article describing the alleged incident in sensational terms. Although the original edition has been lost, multiple historical investigations conclude that its reporting inflamed public anger. Researchers also believe the newspaper may have included an editorial encouraging the lynching of Rowland, though no surviving copy of that editorial has ever been found. Within hours, crowds of angry white residents gathered outside the courthouse where Dick Rowland was being held. At the same time, members of Greenwood's black community feared history might repeat itself. Across the United States in the early 20th century, lynchings had claimed the lives of hundreds of African Americans, often without a trial. Many black residents believed that if they did nothing, Rowland could become the next victim. A group of black World War I veterans, men who had served their country overseas and returned home hoping for equality, made a difficult decision. They armed themselves and went to the courthouse, intending to help prevent a lynching. Their arrival was meant as protection. Instead, it became the beginning of a tragedy that would change Tulsa forever. As night fell on May 31st, two armed groups faced each other outside the courthouse. No one could know that within minutes, a single gunshot would trigger one of the deadliest outbreaks of racial violence in American history.